Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of our daily news program. These are the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, receives today the Ambassador of the Republic of Portugal, Luis de Albuquerque Veloso, who paid him a farewell visit at the end of his mission in Algeria. On behalf of the head of state, the Prime Minister reads a keynote speech at the opening of the International Development Association Summit for Mobilizing Resources for Africa, held in Kenya. The Algerian, Tunisian, Libyan tripartite initiative held in Carthage enshrines the pragmatic diplomacy and a proactive regional alternative. More details about this strategic step forward later on. And in the latest developments in Gaza, the death toll of the bombings that targeted eastern Rafah has reached 22 martyrs, in addition to dozens of wounded. The bloody Zionist aggression resulted in a total number of more than 34,000, reports our correspondent in Gaza. Welcome again. First off, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, received today the Ambassador of the Republic of Portugal, Luis de Albuquerque Veloso, who paid him a farewell visit at the end of his mission in Algeria. The audience took place in the presence of the General Secretary of the Presidency, Abdullah Menji. Following the audience, the Ambassador of Portugal put forward the efforts made to further boost economic relations between the two countries. Let's have a listen.
Je viens d'être reçu en audience par Son Excellence le Président de la République.
I have just been received in audience by His Excellency the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. I conveyed to him how much I enjoyed my 4 years in this country, and that's the life of diplomats. That's how we live after a while. We, of course, talked about the success of President Tebboune's visit to Portugal last year, and we also wanted to deepen our economic relations, which are excellent. And I also conveyed to him that it gave me a lot of pleasure to be in this country, especially by the kindness and welcome of its people and its beauty and landscapes. Despite the 2 years of COVID, I was able to tour around the country, and I told everyone in Portugal and my friends that they have to come to know this country well.
Je dis à tout le monde au Portugal et à mes amis qu'il faut venir. Il faut venir pour connaître bien ce pays, ça vaut la peine. Merci.
The Algerian, Tunisian, Libyan tripartite initiative held in Carthage Palace in Tunisia enshrined a pragmatic diplomacy, as the emergence of this new regional bloc constituted a proactive regional alternative that successfully established a new approach which believe in action rather than slogans. More details about this strategic dimension of the alliance with Rania Al-Bahri.
The birth of the Group of Three in Carthage directs the stagnant compass of the Maghreb towards action instead of slogans. As soon as the fraternal meeting was announced from Algeria, interpretations and analysis poured, and observers disagreed about naming the summit that brought together the Algerian, Tunisian and Libyan presidents between the Carthage Agreement, the Arab Maghreb Union BIS and the Tunisian Trio. Skeptics made predictions about the results of these three parties, predicting that it wouldn't be held contrary to speculation. A founding meeting for a new approach to cooperation was held on April 22nd. In 1 year exactly, 30 years will be passed since the announcement of the expiration certificate for the Arab Maghreb Union, which no longer exists in reality. The Moroccan Minister of Foreign Affairs announced at that time the freezing of the Arab Maghreb Union under the pretext of the Western Sahara problem, and since then all of the Union's institutions have been suspended. As the Secretary General of the Arab Maghreb Union had been retained, the latter was well taken care of by the Royal Palace, where he was transformed into a subordinate Moroccan diplomat instead of the Secretary General of the Moroccan Union. The Carthage meeting was an opportunity to address the situation of this union, an entity that can't be revived after having been in a state of brain death for such a long time. Algeria, which was accused of being responsible for this situation, was the one that called on its Maghreb brothers to think about another path. President Tebboune has never hidden his intentions when it comes to cooperation. a step that Algeria preceded with several decisions, such as announcing the establishment of 5 free trade zones with Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Tunisia and Libya in particular. Algeria, which occupied the forefront in the diplomatic field, accompanied its proposal with a pragmatic dynamism that included the most urgent files, such as security of the common borders, combating illegal immigration, and launching major investment projects related to energy, grain production, seawater desalination, and the climate challenges, with the signing of an agreement to address the common groundwater file in the northern Sahara region between Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya. The leaders of the 3 countries had the courage to reject the deteriorating situation of the Arab Maghreb Union and they embarked on a firm initiative that goes beyond mere presence in the group of 3 to establish a strategic union to adapt to regional and international changes as a first step to establish the North African Alliance, which Mauritania will one day join. The Carthage Alliance, worthy of being a proactive regional alternative, will impose itself over time as a reliable and responsible partner towards other corporate entities.
In other news, the International Development Association Summit for Mobilizing Resources for Africa kicked off this Monday with a speech by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, read on his behalf by the Prime Minister Nadir Al-Arbawi. The head of state emphasized the summit's significance as a key step in supporting African priorities and aspirations. One of the main goals is to replenish the resources of international development institutions. The summit also provides an opportune moment to address the challenges posed by the current international situation. The President reaffirmed Algeria's support for all initiatives and mechanisms aimed at bridging the financing gap, implementing effective instruments to reduce impact of the debt and increasing the volume of development, particularly in priority sectors. Algeria highlights the vital role played by the International Association for Development in financing and aspires to adopt an ambitious approach in the reconstitution of resources. Algeria once again renews its support for the mechanisms and initiatives addressing the finance problems, alleviate debt and mobilize all necessary resources in the priority sectors.
تؤكد الجزائر مجددا على الدور التمويلي المحوري
Algeria reaffirms the key role of the International Association for Development in financing and aspires to adopt an ambitious approach in the reconstitution of resources by taking in consideration the needs of the borrowing countries. Algeria once again renews its support for the mechanism and initiatives to fix financing problems, alleviate debt, and mobilize all necessary resources in the priority sectors.
Addressing the deep economic reforms taken by Algeria for the building of a new economic model, the President of the Republic affirmed that supporting development in Africa is closely linked to accelerating progress toward international inclusion. This was emphasized, highlighting Algeria's efforts in this regard through an inclusive approach to its national projects.
إن دعم التنمية في إفريقيا مرتبط بتسريع وتيرة الاندماج القاري.
Supporting development in Africa allows the acceleration of the continental inclusion and the application of the African Agenda 2063. That's what Algeria wants to achieve by integrating its national projects and achieving other projects in several African countries. Algeria has always supported development in Africa and plays a key role in the collective process for the establishment of a new, fair and global economic system. It aspires to make this event a platform for experience exchange, to find solutions and promote development in our continent.
لإثراء النقاش واستكشاف السبل الأمثل للدفع بالتنمية في قارتنا.
On the sidelines of the summit, Prime Minister Nadir Al-Arbawi was received by the Kenyan President, who conveyed with him his greetings and deepest feelings of respect to the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, highlighting the good brotherly relations existing between the two countries. Algeria's Premier was equally received by the President of the Mauritanian of Mauritania, Mohamed Al Ghazawani, head of the African Union, who tasked him to convey his greetings and feelings of respect to the head of state, wishing the brotherly Algerian people prosperity and further development. Prime Minister met with his Ethiopian counterpart Ahmed Abiy, who expressed his consideration to the President of the Republic and that he is looking forward to his visit to Ethiopia. Abiy also hailed Algeria's position, one of the few countries that still defend the African principles and values. Tasked by the President of the Republic, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, has arrived to the Qatari capital Doha to participate in the third session of the Arab Economic and Cooperation Forum with the countries of Central Asia and the Republic of Azerbaijan. This session is an opportunity for the countries to discuss ways of cooperation in various political, economic and cultural sectors. And to this new development, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, took part today in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in a ministerial meeting dedicated to the examination of the ways and means to apply the two-state solution with the recognition of the Palestinian state as a permanent solution to the conflict. The meeting also witnessed the participation of Arab foreign ministers, members of the OIC, as well as European countries. In his keynote speech, Ahmed Attaf affirmed that the edification of the Palestinian independent state is the cornerstone to all solutions to the conflict, affirming that it is encouraging that a number of countries are considering recognizing Palestine, while calling these countries in question to concretize this important step, which is a major step in establishing peace and security in the Middle East. In cooperation, the Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohamed Arqab, reiterated Algeria's commitment to consolidate its position as an energy provider via major investments in the sector of exploration, production and gas transportation, and that in order to answer to the increase in demand via an investment program exceeding $52 billion. Arqab, during his keynote speech at the Ministerial Forum on Climate, Energy and Environment held in Torino, Italy. This Ministerial Forum aims to search for ways and means to consolidate cohesion between the different producers taken in order to face up the climate change and pollution as well as environmental issues. And a workshop titled National Strategy for Information System Security opened on Monday at the National Preparatory School for Engineering Studies, Shahid Baji Mukhtar, in Nariba, in the 1st Military Region. The workshop, spanning 3 days, is attended by representatives from the Presidency, the Prime Minister's Office, ministers, as well as public and private sectors stakeholders. The workshop's activities include presentations by civil and military experts on the national strategy for information system security, as well as international cooperation and national partnership through the establishment of an appropriate national cybersecurity system. The proceedings were inaugurated by Major General Head of the Employment Preparation Department of the PNA staff, who emphasized Algeria's commitment to information systems security in his speech.
من الجزائر على غرار دول العالم ليست بمأمن.
Algeria, like other, is not immune of the threats of the cyber attacks. To this end, we are focusing all our efforts on adapting to the new digital environment by implementing a strategy aimed at securing our IT systems and sensitive structures linked to the national security and our sovereignty.
In a different context, the public prosecutor at the Economic and Financial Judicial Pole informs the public that following information received regarding a criminal network involved in money laundering and concealing criminal acts, a preliminary investigation has been opened. The investigation revealed the involvement of a tobacco sales company managed by BDK using trade registers in the names of individuals with no commercial links to the company. This was done in exchange for money to justify the illegal origins of these funds, which were then deposited in several banks in the names of those involved to conceal their suspicious origin resulting from from tax evasion and money laundering. Furthermore, significant amounts of counterfeit banknotes were seized. Based on these results, the public prosecutor ordered the seizure of real estate, bank funds and precious metals amounting to over 543 billion centimes of April 28th. The suspects have been presented to the public prosecutor, who ordered a judicial investigation to be opened against the accused BDK, his company and his accomplices. The investigating judge ordered the provisional detention of 12 of them and the judicial control of the other suspects. The Sedaya Air Base project in the south of Mustaghanem province reached a percentage of 57 of its total completion rate, a highly beneficial project which will boost forest fire fighting services in the west of the country, since it will provide a crucial logistical support. Sofyan Maqnin and Najah Tayyar.
The Sayada Airdrome Air Base project in Mustaghanem province, which will be used for forest fire fighting and medical evacuation, is 57% complete. Once operational, it will enable rapid intervention to contain forest fires. The airbase is in anticipation of the firefighting campaign that Tassili Airlines has reinforced its flotilla.
Tassili Airlines has acquired aircrafts currently at Huwari Boumediene Airport, 7 of which will be leased to form a forest firefighting fleet. The center will also house a pilot training unit, a drone center and helicopters for medical evacuations.
The climate change has forced forestry services to prepare quickly after bringing forward the launch date of the national firefighting campaign.
The government has taken the preventive step of launching an early forest fighting campaign starting from May 1st. This decision was taken in response to the devastating fires of recent years to prevent them from happening again. Today, we are seeing the results of these preparations, such as this air base and, of course, the important contribution of civil society and associations, which we hope will support us in the awareness campaign.
Worth to be mentioned that Mustaghanem province has a wealth of forests with a high concentration of argan trees, for which a 4-hectare site has been set aside as part of a national program that has already produced 200,000 trees to date.
Abroad, onto this update on the situation in the Gaza Strip, the provisional death toll from the bombings that targeted eastern Rafah has already reached 22 martyrs and dozens of wounded, bringing the total number of martyrs since the beginning of the Zionist aggression to more than 34,000. Our correspondent Wissam Abu Zaid was there and revealed for us the shock of a survivor who lost his friend in this bombing, in this report taken up by Rania Bahri.
يلا قوم والله غير جمعة نعمل شاي يلا مع بعض أنا وأنت.
He wished him to stay alive so he could drink tea with him as always. This was the utmost wish of this Palestinian young man who lost his friend in one of the occupation raids which targeted several homes in the city of Rafah, south of the Gaza Strip, and left 20 martyrs. Among them was this young man. His friend couldn't believe that he had died after they pledged to live and die together. During the daylight hours, bulldozers were racing against time to remove the rubble after a raid on another residential house, while civil defense teams searched for the martyrs, the injured and those missing under the rubble, most of them children, women and elderly. The Zionist bombings caused widespread destruction in the neighboring houses, which were densely populated. Neighbors were searching for injured, whose blood and body parts were scattered among the rubble.
To sports now, USM Algiers flew back to Algeria without playing the second leg of the semi-finals of the African Confederation Cup against the Moroccan team RS Berkane because of this childish behavior since the first leg was last week. By violating the CAF and the FIFA laws, the Algerian Football Federation took the matter to the Sports Arbitration Court. More details with Yasin Hamdi.
As expected, USM Algiers refused to face RS Berkane in the second leg of the semi-finals of the African Confederation Cup after traveling to Morocco because of the stubbornness of the Makhzen club that kept displaying an imaginary map on its jersey, a map that reflects the expansionist policy of the Makhzen. USM Algiers didn't violate any rule. And according to the former media manager of the African Football Confederation, Hedi Hamel, who was on a phone call with our Canal Algérie colleagues on Canal Foot, it's a pure provocation.
D'abord et avant tout, une stupide provocation. C'est une stupide provocation.
It's a stupid provocation and nothing else. The laws were violated despite being very clear. The FIFA rules are valid for every confederation of the 6 continents, namely the CONCACAF, the CONMEBOL, the UEFA, the CAF, the AFC and the OFC. There is no room for this kind of behavior in the sports world, and it's clear that any kind of political interference shouldn't be accepted.
Just like the first game, the CAF representatives noticed that after 15 minutes, one of the teams didn't leave the locker room and cancelled the game. USM Algiers left the stadium, heading to the airport to take a flight to Algiers. The final decision regarding this case will be taken by the Sports Arbitration Court in Switzerland next week following the FIFA rules, especially the rule number 4 of the International Football Association Board. An important decision for the Algerian football.
And we wrap up our edition with culture. On the 5th day of the Annaba Mediterranean Film Festival, made by Tiberia was screened at the Annaba Cinema Museum. The film tells us the story of Tiberias, the village where the director's mother grew up. More details in this report with our colleague Sarah Hidushi.
On the 5th day of the Annaba Mediterranean Film Festival, the film Bye Bye Tabariye by Palestinian Algerian director Lina Swellem was presented. Swelem's journey started with documentary films that tell the stories of people who suffered from colonization, like her father's family, whom we got to know in the film Their Algeria. In this film, we get to learn about the story of Tabariye, told by the woman and her family.
كنت كتير مبسوطة إنه يعرض الفيلم بالجزائر بعنابة. أول فيلم تبع جزائرهم كمان نعرض بالجزائر.
So delighted with the fact that the movie got projected in Algeria, especially in Annaba province, and that the Algerian audience appreciated it. This movie is about my Palestinian family. It focuses on women transmitting traditions and history to every generation, despite the difficulties facing them.
من جيل لجيل رغم الفقدان والهجرة وصعوبة الحياة.
قداش حلوة إن نستنى أن نشوفوا لينا سوالم نعرفوا عليها راهي بدات في إخراج الأفلام الوثائقية وبدات بحكايتها.
I've been waiting for so long to watch this movie. Lina Swalem's debut was by directing documentary films, telling her stories and the stories of her beloved ones from the Algerian and Palestinian side, since her dad is Algerian. This movie is about her mother and her family in Palestine as she describes their journey with the Zionist aggression eradicating their village.
شاركت بفيلم قصير من إخراجي اسمه العبور.
I participated with the short movies that showcases the reality and daily life of Palestinians under the Zionist occupation, which is still going for 75 years now. On the sidelines of this festival, a conference about Palestine was organized, and I extend my appreciation to the administration for shedding the light on the Palestinian cause, especially amid the current circumstances.
Cinema and film have always been and remain one of the most important means of preserving national memory and supporting important humanitarian causes.
And with that, our today's news edition comes to a close. Thank you for tuning in, and goodbye for now.